Hello, everyone. I'm Christina, and today we are doing a prophecy update. A lot's been going on over the weekend, right? Especially in my life. I mean, we had the Rosh Hashana Jewish New Year start, and I know last year around this time I was having quite a few visions, so I'd written them down, and I was looking through that last night. And we'll get to that dream and vision diary that I have in a minute, but we were going to start with the rabbis in Israel, the Jews, they're looking for the Mashiach right now. I think that, like every Christian, we know that what they're looking for isn't exactly what they're going to get. And there are some people that think it's time for the Antichrist. And I respect everyone's opinion, but I don't really think we're there just yet. I think that there's some steps that have to happen first. And I think they're really building on themselves. If anyone is here, just go ahead and hit like, say hello. It's good to see you here. Right now, it's kind of crazy because we've got this tropical storm beta coming in. We're getting a lot of rain. It's like a slow mover, so we're going to have a lot of flooding, but it's cold outside. It's really weird, especially the way that it's double backing like that. So everybody's been really preparing for that around here. And I really think that's kind of interesting because Trump just signed the peace deal with what countries? Israel, Bahrain, and the UAE here in the United States a few days back. And then here comes the storm on the coast. And I know Dana Coverstone had said Texas, Louisiana looked like they were in a little bit of shock, and this might not be what it is. It could be that disaster I had seen coming to Texas and the Gulf of Mexico, but it's always something, it's always something every time he messes with Israel. Here we go. I mean, didn't we just have Hurricane Laura just a week ago, right? It's kind of strange. I mean, it is just to me. I mean, especially to have something like this going on. It's so cold. But back to the Mashiach. It's just really strange. It's like they are expecting something, but I'd had a dream. It was one of the first ones I wrote down in my diary that the rabbi, it was on February 16th, 2018. And I saw the alleyways of Jerusalem there, that kind of dirt wall, maybe an adobe thing, but there's like lots of alleyways and I think stores or something, maybe houses in these alleys too, kind of like a maze is what it kind of seemed like, how they have their structures. But anyway, one of these alleys, a rabbi was reading a book that had come out, and it was the book of Revelation 10, the one that was sweet as honey in the mouth, but bitter in the stomach. And instead of saying they were looking for the Mashiach, they said, we're looking for somebody's mom. So, but he was reading from the book. So I don't know. I mean, they did realize, I mean, I know that what I'd heard growing up was that, yeah, they'd be looking for a Mashiach, but then they'd realize their mistake at some point. And when it comes to the book, somebody had to have written it, so maybe we'd be looking for a female. Hi, hello, OffGrid, Everyday Survival, and Crazy Christians. So good to see you guys here this morning. I decided to go ahead and have a morning. I haven't really had my full Coca-Cola yet. We're all in this together. And Crazy Christian, I was really looking into that situation. You were telling me, like, the sound wasn't traveling around Oregon where the fires were. And what I had found is that there are a couple of situations where the sound doesn't travel. And, it really works a lot on vibration. It can travel through the air, but, the air quality isn't the same. And also when there is a vacuum, a lot of times light can get through, but not sound. So some of those things might be contributing to that, but that's really interesting. So, not to have sound traveling. It sounds like Langoliers, right? When they were in the airport and they made those steps and there was no echo. That's really interesting. Got one like. Good, 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 good. I hope everybody is doing all right, because we're starting to feel the pressure of how the world is starting to really come under the pressure, the depression. Everywhere that I look, I'm seeing not just from messengers or in the Bible, not just in the own visions that I've had, but I'm seeing actual in the news. Economic disaster is looming, and airports and needing $25 billion bailouts, talks of how the country might shut down. And in Israel, they're having hundreds of people protest against a second lockdown. It's killing us. It's this economic issue is killing us more. It's killing us faster than the COVID. It's just one of those things where you're waiting for the spanking before it comes. It's like that tension, anxiety, and it's really intense. It's one of those slow burns that really. Anyway, that's what we're dealing with. And then we just passed this Rosh Hashana weekend, and it was really interesting because a vision that I'd had a year ago pretty much came true for me this weekend. And it was a sign from God that things would start turning around, like start getting harder financially for me in 1 year. And I may have focused on that a little bit too much, because there was more to the vision than that. I remembered that a famine was coming, and I was supposed to prepare for that too. But I went ahead and I'd written it down. And since I remembered it when this personal thing happened yesterday, I went ahead and just decided to look at the vision again. And it was so close to what I've been hearing from Dana Coverstone too, but this was mine. That I was going to college. I was in college in this vision, and I was going on a grant, and that what the services that had been there for me would not be there anymore. I noticed that the campus grounds at the time are full. Everybody's there, and then the semester changes, and the campus grounds are empty. I noticed a donation bin that had once been full, and it was a huge donation bin for food at this college. It only had like tuna and marshmallows and just a few of it at the bottom, and maybe a couple other items. So I was snatching that up, and I was saying, oh no, this is it. There's not going to be any more food. This is the last of it, right? But not it was talking about tuition going up, but I know that was like the prices of everything. But I also wrote college kids hiding from a nuke. So, that just brought me right back to Dana Coverstone's, saying that he's seeing troops, he's seeing movement. And we know when peace and security are being declared, that sudden destruction comes. And they're talking about 5 more countries at least coming in to start signing these deals with Israel. I think it has something to do with putting their embassies, like being able to have access to certain pieces of land, which in a way starts breaking up Israel, and it is all for financial gain. Uh-oh. Okay. Somehow I must have pushed a button. I thought I wanted to end my live stream. Yeah, there's just some things I've been actually like really afraid to say, because one of the visions that I'd had, really, it was the front page of a newspaper with big block letters that said, and I don't know how this would edify the church, but I did get it, and it just said, John Travolta dies in a plane crash piloting his own plane. So that was one of the visions. And the thing is that my senses have gotten stronger lately. Like my gifts. My dad was over the other day, and I forgot to let him tell me before I answered him. Like, he didn't get to actually say it out loud before I answered him ahead of time. I knew what he was going to say, and I just didn't realize he hadn't said it yet. And when it's around Rosh Hashana in my past, I've typically gotten a lot of supernatural, like, visions and things starting to happen. And I just don't really have a good feeling about it. I really never really did have a good feeling. If you look back in May, before Dana's visions even came out, I said, watch, something worse is coming, and something worse after that. I am starting to notice in the grocery stores that things are starting to go missing again. Things are starting to get sparse. I'm starting to hear of, like, what is it? China doesn't know if they're going to be able to feed their people. If you just look, you're going to see everybody is having crop issues. Some people might say that, well, there's enough food, but then the transportation isn't cutting it. Which, really makes a lot of sense about all the visions of shipments stopping eventually, So I know that y'all have all been told to stock up, but at some point, where do you even, are you really able to think of everything, right? Will you be able to keep it? It's just, it can be really unnerving. But I think that because even though this hard news came for me recently in my personal life, that led me back to these visions that are the things going on now and things that people are saying that are fixing to happen in the future that are lining up with other visions. It lets me know that God is still with me, that he's still working miracles in our lives, and the harder that things get, what do they say? It's when you're on your knees, it's time to pray. Pray. We're getting pushed down. It's getting hard. Good morning, Miss Betts. Oh, yes, I think we are all disgusted with, it's really a lot of things, isn't it? But I think it's good for us to remember that there are still really good people in this world, that there are still, there's still the army of light out there. It's going to persevere. And I think sometimes when we remember there is still good and still miracles from God that are going to happen in our lives, I think it gives us a bit of peace and comfort. But I always want to keep reminding people also that since we're having problems with the magnetosphere right now, that means that we're also having issues with frequency. Okay. When you have problems with frequency, it's going to make people really irritable. And I don't know how many of you guys have noticed the masks just coming off of people. I'm talking, wow, the stuff they'd usually be able to keep under a lid. It's just getting worse. And I really attribute a lot of that to the magnetosphere. But it also makes sense spiritually because we are beings of light, energy, right? We're souls inside of these vessels. So if we're supposed to go through a time of transformation, like into light or dark, then what's in us already, what kind of light we already have, would start being amplified. And what is that Bible verse that says, let the righteous be righteous still and the unrighteous, the unrighteous will, let the unrighteous be unrighteous still, something like that. The unrighteous will wax worse and worse. Yeah, November, that the election's coming up. That's definitely something I want to cover, because we've got that Supreme Court judge that just died. My oldest son was kind enough to tell me, well, they're threatening to burn down some things if another judge is appointed. Like, any other person in their right mind, sitting president, wouldn't do that. But that just goes back to a vision that I'd had of the DC Capitol building on fire a few years ago. I'd seen the DC Capitol building just engulfed in flames. And so that's why it was really interesting. And I'd said it in my prior videos, it's there. So I'm not just coming out and saying this now. But for Dana to say, yeah, I saw Washington, D.C. on fire, and then for this to come up, so, and that other thing about what Dana said about the clear winner is not so clear. Mike from the around the world and some other people I know made the point that if we're doing mail-in voting, and if we have people trying to discourage us from getting to the polls, then it's going to take longer for them to count up these ballots. And there's going to be a lot of arguing amongst each other and some really cutthroat kind of, usual banter back and forth. But I can see the rioting. I can see something bigger than what we saw the last election, just more of a, but I think that if this is the November, if this is the fall we've been waiting on for all these hardships to start kicking off, then we're not going to be too long focused on the election. We're going to be more worried about where we're going to live, what we're going to eat, how we're going to clothe our children, if there's even a job out there to work at. Those are the things that Americans are worrying about already as it is. It's almost comical to it's almost a second thought, these elections, to me, because I see so much going on that it's extremely worrisome. And there was somebody who said that Trump was the first rider of the horse of the apocalypse, like taking peace from the earth. Oh gosh. Yeah, a lot of judgment being passed. We've got so much going on. Can you imagine if we do end up in war? I mean, it wouldn't be so unthinkable if we keep this up with Israel. I mean, it is supposed to be sudden destruction, right? Like everything is fine one minute and then the next it's not. Even the visions of the grocery stores people have had, it's fine one minute, it's starting to get a little sparse. There's starting to be problems with the economy, but I mean, I still can't believe that they're selling cars as high as they are, $55,000 cars, $35,000 for we can't afford that anymore. We just can't afford that. And I believe that it's not just going to be one place where, okay, this comes down. It's all, I don't know how we can even get a second stimulus check when this amount of Americans aren't even working. I mean, did they have like some kind of secret stash put away with that $21 trillion deficit they have? I mean, is there something I've missed? Because I don't know where all this money is coming from. And you start raining dollar bills on people. What's it really worth? How much is it really going to be able to buy? Just looking at some of the comments, given a crown and a bow, empty malls. Yeah, that right there. See, I've seen people having visions. Now, if it's my visions, I'll tell you what I saw. This is what I saw. But if I'm talking about I heard somebody else's, I'll tell you that. It's, I won't claim somebody else's visions as my own. But, the empty malls, I'd seen that coming through the pike a long time ago. Well, because they were just slowly draining out, but somebody had said something about that a while back. But now they're, there were people also starting to say how people, it's not just Dana Coverstone. There was other people who said they'd seen people taking shelter in empty abandoned strip malls, and that they were trying very, very hard not to be noticed, though. They didn't want people to know that they were there, like they were hiding. Like things had gone really, really bad in America. So I don't know if those malls will be empty for long, And another subject that has been coming up is about all of the bunkers that the elite had built under the ground. They put probably the finest wines and, their own gym and tennis courts, I'm sure of it. But I got to thinking, once I realized a few years ago that we were going to go through a pole shift and an American continent divide and huge 400-foot tsunamis. Especially with the shaking and the pressure under the ground. You think about the coral that was dying under the sea. That's how it started, 10 years ago? People didn't understand why the coral was dying. The earth is going to do that. It's going to crush these places. It won't necessarily be safe. And now they are starting to realize that the safest place might be just laying flat on the ground and just like an open land. But there's always going to be that chance that you can have liquefaction in the ground where it turns to liquid. It's like quicksand, but moving like a river. The ground could split open. But if there's a chance, I can imagine trees just sinking into the ground. I can see that happening. But I really wouldn't want to be in the city or underground at that time. Mm-mm. When it's your time anyway. You just hope for the best, right? But you plan for everything. Christy saying, in the past, I had a dream of very bright light, like something hit, and a vision in Walmart riots before all that started. Wow, that could happen this fall. No doubt about that. You think about Black Friday and the way that it's been talked about is like all of a sudden the credit card machines aren't working, or the shipments have stopped coming, and then there's the elections and everything. So yeah, I've been hearing about the generals and CEOs of certain companies, people that may have supposedly died, and CEOs that had stepped down, that they've been there, and they've been there for a while. I've been hearing about that too. But I'm not so sure they're going to be okay. I don't necessarily think they're going to be necessarily okay. I don't know why. I just don't get the feeling that they're going to be in a happy place when this is all said and done. Not necessarily. Because when judgment comes, there's no running away. You know? You can't escape God. He knows where you are. There's a story that came out about CERN. And this bird had been flying over with a little piece of bread they called a baguette. He accidentally dropped this baguette, and it just happened to fall in the perfect place, and it like broke the circuit. So the certain thing they wanted to do that day didn't happen over a piece of bread. That's just an example, right? Yep, they will pray the rocks will fall to hide them from the judgment of the Lamb. Now, another problem that I've been seeing, and I've actually been able to point this out to a couple of people, is I know that a lot of people are talking about rapture happening, like they're having dreams and everything. But some of these dreams are really concerning me in their interpretation of them, because they're giving these different scenarios about how they see rapture. But they're seeing meteors come down, or they're seeing a tsunami come in, or they're seeing nukes come in, and then all of a sudden they go up and they think that's rapture. I'm telling you, that is not rapture. That is death. It's just quick like that. But I'm really concerned about the confusion there. If we have rapture, we have rapture. That's fine. But God hasn't been saying anything to me about it. He's been telling me to prepare, and I know I hear him. So I'm not necessarily one of these people that he doesn't care about or doesn't talk to. It's not like I'm not somebody that doesn't walk with him. I do, but he's not telling me to, give everything away and stand out in the field somewhere. He's not telling me that, so I don't really understand the rapture visions right now. I think we're in for judgment, and I think we're going through it. Yep. Yeah, I know. I know it because it can be scary. But you never know what you're capable of. And I'm not talking about bad things. I'm talking about, you never know what's inside of you that's ready to come out. You don't know what gifts are in you. There's plenty of stories when, what is that saying? They go, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You You just never know what you're really capable of. You don't know what God has set up in our paths, the people that we've set up, that have been set up for us to meet and encourage. I don't know. I think that if we were the most important time in history, that, I mean, as far as the Bible talks about, that all of our ancestors talk about, that all of our descendants will talk about, I just think we have a lot of great things ahead of us. I think that we're capable of more than we think we are. And if we get raptured, that's cool. But I think we're here for a reason, you know? I think I have to go because someone is at my door. But maybe we'll pick up on this really soon. Okay. I'll talk to y'all later. Love you guys. Bye. And okay.